Peter, most discussions, debates between science and theology take the form of theists presenting their demonstrations, proofs, call it what you will, for the existence of God, and atheist philosophers countering those. But let's flip that around and ask, what are the affirmative arguments against the existence of God?
Oh, that's really tricky. In a sense, I think I'd quite like there to be a God, especially if it was a benevolent one, not the one of the Old Testament. That would be rather grim. But in order to believe that there is a God, I would need evidence, and I see no evidence. I see evidence of no kind whatsoever. I don't think that sentiment is evidence. That's this what people call a variety of synonyms of faith, revelation, all that sort of thing. These are just quirks of the brain that have been often impressed upon it by family or cultural milieu. So miracles are not evidence, because there's always, as David Hume said, of course, that there was more reason to doubt the reporter than to believe what he reported. So when I look around the world, I see no evidence whatsoever for a God. And I know a lot of people claim that there is a God, but they don't have evidence either, apart from the sentiment that drives them and the cultural conditioning that they have been brought up in. So why should I believe, in the absence of evidence, in the existence of this entity? I suppose you couple that with the thought that, is a God necessary for anything? Is there any aspect of the world that demands a God, that cannot be understood in the absence of a God thought? And the things that, of course, come to mind there are, the creation of the universe. Where did it all come from? Although to say glibly that God did it seems to me to be a rather vacuous sort of explanation. The origin of good and evil, of course, morality, is said to spring from the Godhead, as it were. But the evidence in the Bible of the nature of God shows that almost anything goes, basically. But I think that it's quite possible to understand the nature of human behavior, morality, the sense of right and wrong, without invoking a God. I mean, this is a complex topic, but in a word, it's to do with a combination of evolution and reflection upon the consequences of one's actions and so on. So even where you feel that good and evil are innate to yourself and therefore have somehow been planted there, I don't think that's a very convincing argument.
Scientists who are theists would point to the existence of physical law, the presence of law themselves, number one. And number two, then the constants that are embedded in those laws that seem to fine-tune the universe.
Yes, okay, but that's extremely unconvincing, really. I mean, the laws effectively are summaries of behavior, and the deeper we explore the behavior of matter, the more we come to an understanding of the laws. And sometimes, I mean, my favorite example really is, why does light travel in straight lines? Mm-hmm. Did God decide that, having let there be light, let it also travel in straight lines? But as soon as you understand the wave nature of light, I won't go into it now, but I mean, once you understand the wave nature of light, you understand that what appears to us to be its constraint to travel in straight lines is in fact its ability to explore all possible paths between 2 points. But it's all the paths that are not straight lines interfere with their neighbours and wipe themselves out. So in fact, there we see that complete anarchy actually leads to a physical law that light travels in straight lines. So you don't need, God didn't have to say, light thou shalt travel in straight lines, or it said, you do anything you like, and my creations will think it's traveling in straight lines. So I think by looking underneath the nature of matter, you can understand the origin of physical law. As to the constants, I mean, this is a perennial problem of why does this universe seem to be so perfectly tuned for our existence? I suppose you could turn that on your head, actually. It seems to be much better tuned for the existence of rock than it does for people. but maybe, God had a thing about rock and wanted a lot of it around. But it's certainly the case that the charge of the electron, the fine structure constant, and all those things seem to be perfectly poised to our advantage. Never mind the poor chumps who might have evolved if they'd had slightly different values. But this is an open question. We don't know the answer. There are two broad types of answer that might be forthcoming. One is that the universe could come into existence only with those particular fundamental constants. And it's just luck that they led to people like us. And I see that's a very powerful possibility. And we're the beneficiaries there of just plain, straightforward, basic luck. And the other possibility, of course, is the many universe. I have to say that rather carefully, where it could be that this universe is only one of an infinite number of others. And they all splatter into existence with different values of the fundamental constants. And it's not surprising that at least one of them has got the right mix. You don't need an architect to design the universe if you have that kind of splatter effect of universes.
The counter argument there is that how do you generate the multiple universes in the first place?
Well, we don't know. I mean, that goes back to the two great questions that remain. One is where did it all come from, and the other is how do we know? How do we think? The nature of consciousness and so on. But science is certainly on the track of the origin of things, and I don't see why it won't come up with a model of the inception of the universe from nothing. And that will show that the fundamental constants just happen to must have had the right values. Or alternatively, that there's trillions and trillions and trillions of universes.
And in this system, there's no need for something extra.
I don't see that at all. No, absolutely not. I mean, science is still on the track of discovery. And I certainly can't say, and it will be the case that we will not find the finger of God. But there's no evidence yet that we will have to invoke that finger.